Who are you? What do you want?
Oh, hello. I was just sending you some messages there to talk to you, and I saw that your guest was finished.
You think I just let random fucking people Skype call me to chat?
No, oh, well, I mean, if you're going to have me on, may as well.
Well, you did it. I don't know why, but I accepted. All right, what do you want to talk about, buddy?
Okay. Basically, what I wanted to talk about was I've been discussing basically political views with extreme lefts, as well as alt-right people as well.
Wait.
And as well as people on the center, right?
Are you the guy on Discord?
Wait. No, I messaged you on Skype.
Oh, somebody messaged me on Discord with a very similar message. Destiny, I've been spending a lot of time speaking to people on the right and the left.
Oh, sorry. Yes, that is me. Sorry, yes.
Oh. Okay, so it is on your Discord. Okay, okay, so what? Okay.
Yeah, now the thing is, I wanted to talk to you with some of these different political ideas that the right and the left have, as well as sort of like the centrist thing as well, because I saw you were talking about that. And basically what I want to do is see if you can help me understand what the hell is going on, because it seems as if the right-wingers and the left-wingers want similar things, yet they're so separate apart that it's like, it's confusing to me. Maybe you can help me understand that.
Sure. What issue? Name. We'll do one issue. Okay, that's what I'll give you today. What do you want to talk about? What's your one most important issue? Where?
Okay, they both want to overthrow the government because they see the government as an oppressive force.
I don't think that's true.
Well, the alt-right says they want to overthrow the government.
The alt-right might, but that's a very small minority of the Republican Party. I don't even know if the alt-right would be considered part of the Republican Party.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. That's odd. But also the communists, they have the same idea, right?
Yeah, but again, communists are a very, 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 very tiny fraction of left-leaning people in the United States. It's very rare that you come up against actual communists in the United
But isn't that
States.
basically the alt-right versus Antifa?
Well, Antifa has almost no presence in the United States, and the alt-right even in the United States is very, very, very small. Are we only talking about like super radical people, or?
Possibly, but I have had conversations with people who are a bit more, let's say, they're a bit more leaner, I guess, but they sort of see a lot of the same issues. Like, I don't know if it's like a horseshoe theory type thing, but it's basically like when I spend, say, a couple of days talking to people on debate communism, and then I'll have, say, a couple of days talking to people on alt-right Discord servers, I basically hear they both have the same problems, but they want to tackle it in a completely different way.
Yeah, that's probably because their axiomatic foundations are very different. So, for instance, like alt-right people might want to overthrow the government because they think the government does too much for multicultural shit, and left people might want to overthrow the government because they think the government doesn't help minorities enough, I guess. Like, there's an example of like a similar issue where they both tackle it in the same way, but they want to go totally different routes with it.
Yeah.
I guess.
No, I guess that makes sense. Yeah. I mean, have you spent much time, say, talking with alt-right people, or you've kind of been sort
a decent amount of time, unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah, one of the things is that I think one of the trying to get my thoughts out. I do struggle with speech a little bit. I think things and they don't connect to my mouth. Okay. A lot of people like yourself, one of your main gripes is that you think that everyone's dog whistling a lot.
Yeah, sometimes I run into that. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that maybe a lot of people are not? They're not. They think that the issues might be real for them, but they're not trying to be like full-on fascist.
Can you elaborate more on that? What do you mean?
Okay, I'll go with a story then. I've met a lot of people in the alt-right, such as Canadians, who are saying that because of the situation that the baby boomers put them in, okay, they now find themselves in a situation where, because of the bleeding heart boomers brought in so much immigration that now they can't, say, afford to buy a house.
Okay.
Things like that. So, like, they talk about like high immigration and high socialism leading to a situation where the state is going broke and the economy is going down the toilet. And when I hear these things, I also live in a situation which is very similar, and so I kind of think that they're right. They're correct on this. Whereas if I talk to people on the left, they just don't give a shit.
Well, I think people on the left have economic woes as well. They usually complain that income inequality has grown massively, that schools and housing are very expensive, healthcare is unaffordable. Everybody has gripes about the economy, no?
Yeah, but don't you think that maybe, when the right wingers are saying this, they're talking directly to what me and so many other people like me, they feel, and that they see this. And so a lot of people sort of go towards the right because it's speaking to our realities, where the left are busy talking about ridiculous things like, gender pronouns, and we need to get more solar panels on our roofs. Like, these things just do not meld into reality for us.
Well, the problem is that the left has to work on messaging, because the reality of things is actually so much different than what you have just said. So, like, something like global warming is probably that could actually be the most important issue of our time, but it's much harder to grasp. So people maybe don't want to talk about it as much. But then, like, things like the economy is totally shit. Like, that's actually something that's probably not true. Like, the economy for most people is actually doing, like, very well, at least in the United States, and probably across most of the Western world. Now, there are a lot of people that have problems, but this idea that everybody is getting fucking ruined in the economy, like, there are problems that exist for sure. Cost of stagnation of wages is a very real thing. At least in the United States, cost of healthcare and education are very real things. Housing in some places is becoming a huge problem in major cities. But this idea that, like, everything is shit and is falling apart and it is super fucked and the whole world is, like, being destroyed, I don't know. This is a message that's put out by people on the right a lot, and it's just not true, I don't think.
It's possible that it may not be as true as what they want it to be. Like, if they're going to say, oh, this is absolutely true, it might not be. They might be, like, say, 60% right, but that is still, no pun intended, but they're still actually correct in getting that message across and making people feel like these are the right guys to support because they are on the ball. Like, it's like, for example, it's like unionizing for the unemployed.
Yeah, sure. I mean, like, left-leaning people have a really bad time in that they don't speak to a lot of these people. That's a problem with left messaging. I'm not going to deny that for sure.
Yeah. So how do you think most people are going to react to that? Like,
probably pretty poorly. I think that right now populism is pretty popular. I think Bernie had a better chance of winning the general than Hillary did. I know a lot of Hillary fans get really mad when I say that, but Bernie's messaging was very similar to Trump's in that he was a very populist sort of figure who spoke to the people, spoke power to the people and whatnot against, he fought against companies more than government and whatnot. But
yeah, see, for example, like I won't say too much because don't want to get doxxed at all. But the thing is like, for me, I had a really good career going, and I find myself in the toilet, economically, because this country has basically just let all the industries die. We have 3 car factories, the 3 main ones.
Wait, I'm sorry, I don't want to be too personal. Are you from the United States?
No, I am from Australia.
You're from Australia, okay.
Yeah. So we've lost all the major car manufacturers to overseas construction. So, like, the latest one would have been Toyota, I think, or it was either Toyota or Ford. But they leave here, right? They close down, they fire all the staff, and they go build the factory overseas, and they're going to import cars here. Like, why would the government even allow that? Like, the government should just be like, no.
Yeah, so the problem is that...
You can close your factory, do what you want, but we're not going to let you import the damn cars.
The problem is that you only see things from one side. And it's hard to look at the world as it would be if that hadn't had happened. So let me give you an example of this, okay? So a car company, a manufacturer, shuts down plants in Australia, and then they export that part of their supply chain to China for manufacturing. We'll say, I don't know where Toyota manufactures its cars, but when they do this, your perception is that jobs are lost from Australia, and that's it. That you just get fucked. Like, that's all that happens. But in reality,
that's how the workers will feel. Yeah.
Well, that is, and that's a problem, and that should definitely be addressed. However, there could be an alternate reality where that supply chain is never exported, where you continue to manufacture cars in your country, where the cars are unaffordable because they're too expensive to manufacture in your country, where people don't purchase the cars. Dealerships, I don't know if you've got car dealerships in Australia, I imagine you do, where people go to buy cars. Yeah, they're not sold direct from the manufacturer. Where those dealerships go out of business because not as many people can afford the cars, and then people complain because there are cars that they can't afford. There are people losing jobs because dealerships go out of business, and then the manufacturer ultimately has to scale down operations. Like, this is something that could happen if the manufacturing doesn't happen in China, but you never see that impact, right?
Well, I'll hand you that because, for example, there were aerial photos taken by drones, like people just having a laugh at the fact that Holden's yard behind their factory was just full of cars, like thousands of cars that weren't even at the dealerships yet because the dealerships weren't selling the cars because people couldn't afford them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that happened.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
so that's like a thing that, oftentimes, and this is, again, you can blame the left on this a little bit because the messaging is really bad. Oftentimes when you talk about exporting jobs, people just see that. That's all they see, and it's a negative thing, and that's it. But what they don't perceive is the fact that they're getting goods for cheaper prices, that complementary jobs are being opened. So for instance, the more people that drive cars, the more people that can work at car dealerships, the more people that can work at places that change your oil, the more car-related stores that can open up, the more you can sell products to people, right? All these other kind of complementary services and businesses are able to thrive because more people can afford a product that they wouldn't have been able to afford if it would have been manufactured in your country. But that stuff is really hard to see. You can't, like, this is why I'm saying it's so much more complicated to make the pro argument, because it's very easy in the United States, for instance. I don't know if you're familiar with places like Detroit.
A little.
Basically, we have cities that were these behemoth cities of car manufacturing. It's easy to look at those cities and be like, well, look, they're fucked. We should have never exported these things. They're totally fucked. But it's a lot harder to see all of the kind of invisible pros that exist as a result of exporting those jobs to another country. And to see all the other jobs that open up, as a result of that. It's really hard to see that.
Okay, I can see that point.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
If a country was to keep its circles, I'll try to get this out in words, and maybe you will understand it, and then you can like paraphrase it for your audience because this is going to be confusing. I think if a country was to keep its primary economic cycle within its own borders. Mm-hmm. And then that means that the wages and the products and everything, the prices would be aligned to the GDP or whatever, how that works. Would it then not be that people would be able to afford things, manufacturing would survive, jobs would be there? I guess it's like a nationalism type argument. And
yeah,
so
it doesn't
import-export.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but it doesn't seem like it works that way. Manufacturing in China is just really fucking good. It's just something that they're really good at. If they're really, really, really good at that, it just makes more sense to have them do it than to try to do it on your own. Like, you can move your people into different types of jobs, and you can move your people into things that they're better at. So in the United States, we do service-related stuff and tech-related stuff really well. Why would we want our workforce to be invested so much into manufacturing when another country can do that so much better, make the products cheaper for everybody else here, and then allow our workers to specialize in the things that they're better at? I understand.
Isn't that an assumption? Is that an assumption?
Well, no, that's the empirical reality. And I've seen there are examples of people that try to what was it, Venezuela? Who tried? Somebody tried to make it might have even been Australia. It wasn't Australia. Somebody tried to make their own BlackBerry. Where?
Oh yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Was it Australia? Was it?
I think so. Yes, it flopped. I think it flopped.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it did. I don't remember if it was Australia or not, but
I think it was, or an example like it.
It might have been. I think it was Argentina. Okay. But basically, what they did was Argentina said, we're not going to get something from another country, we're going to make it ourselves. And they did it. They set up their own factories, they had their own workers, and they did all of it. And at the end of the day, they made their own BlackBerry, and it was awesome, and they were very proud of it, and it was cool. And 2 years later, everything shut down because nobody could afford it. It was just too expensive. They couldn't do it. So it seems like empirically, and I hate to sound like a big globalist or whatever, but like globalism and the principles of economics, I mean, like, these are just all like very basic economic principles that seem to have a lot of empirical data and theoretical data that back up the way they work, right? Things like what I'm describing right now is something called comparative advantage, that sometimes different sectors can specialize in things better. You let them do it instead of trying to do everything, and that things tend to work better that way, kind of like an assembly chain.
Well, I know a lot of your points of view because I've been listening to you since the Factorio days that you were playing that while talking to people.
Oh,
and
sure.
by the way, I bought that game because of you. I saw you playing it. I thought, oh, that's damn nice.
Okay. Yeah, it's a cool game.
But anyway, back onto the topics. So, okay, the thing is that my problem with it is that the globalism and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're at a point right now, and I don't know if it's going to get worse or if it'll eventually get better and things will be fixed, right? But for now, what we are seeing is unemployment rates skyrocketing. We have third world countries that are being exploited for their cheap labor, and these massive capitalistic companies have no shits given for what they're doing to third world countries by exploiting their labor, and the first world countries, which are just going to fall apart because they don't have any jobs for anybody.
Well, I mean, I can't speak to. Is unemployment really that bad in Australia?
Well,
right now, I
nearly
say that
20%.
it's what?
Oh,
20.
Okay.
Because right now, when I look at your numbers, it looks like your unemployment is 5.4%. Is it?
Yeah. Well, what they're doing is they take the unemployment where the people who don't have jobs at all, and they put that as the 5.4%. However, people with part-time jobs are not represented in that category, which I can understand how that might work. It's fair enough. But then you have the people who are on the dole, and they have this program called Work for the Dole, and they remove them for the unemployment stats as well. They're not getting paid for the work. It's I'm
not comfortable talking about this because I'm just not familiar enough with Australia. I can
so
speak.
If you're on the dole, which is these unemployment payments, so you say you get five.
Well, I'm uncomfortable. Not to sound mean to you, but I'm uncomfortable getting this information from you. This is something that I would have to look into on my own.
That's fine.
Yeah. For instance, in the United States, we have different ways of keeping track of unemployment. We've got the U3, the U4, the U5, the U6. And oftentimes when people talk about unemployment, they're always citing the U3. And I know why people cite the U3. But sometimes people say, like, well, look at the U6 unemployment. It's actually way higher. And then they'll give reasons why. But there's reasons why we don't talk about the U6 unemployment. But I don't know in Australia. I'd have to go and look up very specifically how you keep track.
And
just
I have
so that
no idea what you're talking about now.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. So I'm just not comfortable. In terms of like exploiting labor from other countries, it's possible that this is a valid critique. I don't know if I necessarily believe that, but this might be a fundamental criticism of capitalism more so than anything else. And I don't know if I'm equipped to deal with that, with that fundamental.
I'm not a fan of capitalism.
I
mean, capitalism to me is like, well, it's the best. It's the worst system that works the best, if you know what I mean. It's like that quote. But I mean, like I see, for example, when they privatized our telecommunications, right? With I don't know if you'll be able to have this conversation because you're not familiar with Australian stuff a lot. But like, for example, we have this company called Telstra.
Okay.
They used to be called Telecom. They were owned by the government. Now they got privatized, and so then they changed the name to Telstra. And they became a monopoly because they owned all the copper. And so then they had all the copper, and then they installed all the ADSL stuff and everything. So then they were being mean, to the competition. And so they were forced. They were broken up into two companies. I think it's similar to like Microsoft, isn't it? And they got broken up into wholesale and retail, and then the wholesale would sell off the access, and then that made things fair.
Okay.
That still wasn't good enough. So then, for example, the government in 2007, we had Kevin Rudd. He brought in the National Broadband Network, and that's a government-owned system now, and everything is so much better.
Sure.
And so that's like, I see that as, okay, if I see how a country could...
Yeah, capitalism can't solve
Yeah.
all problems. I totally agree with that. I agree that market failures exist and all that, yeah.
The problem is, though, that there was a corporate interest that killed the NBN for us in many ways. There's this company called Fairfax, and this guy, he's like the owner of Fairfax Media, and so, when you look at this story, it plays right into the JQ in so many ways. It's like, this guy who owns a media organization, he has special ties to our current Prime Minister, and so he screwed the Australians over because he has Foxtel, right? And that's Telstra as well. So it's like all these board members all kind of in cahoots, and they played at the government, and they screwed over the NBN by changing it from fiber to the home to fiber to the node. Okay, and that means that now we have VDSL instead of fiber to the home.
Oh, gotcha.
And our internet is really shitty. And so
yeah, I've heard. I know that about Australian internet. Yeah.
Yeah, and so these kinds of things happen, and I don't imagine it's just Australia. I mean, I know that in America where you're at, there's plenty of that kind of shitty stuff going on. I think you call it like what is it?
Net neutrality, maybe.
No, yeah, but it's like when you have those capitalist crony capitalism. Is that
crony capitalism? Yeah.
Yeah, is that the word for this?
Maybe, yeah. Well, some leftists would argue that all capitalism is crony capitalism, or all crony capitalism is just capitalism. So yeah, but yeah, no, I know what you mean. Yeah, the kind of collusion, bad behavior, and all that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so like you can just take this and go, well, I mean, if you put all of these different things together, it puts it in my head that when the right is telling me that a fascist state would work a lot better because the government can, as long as the government isn't corrupted. But like if it's small government, controlled properly, has good voting and good input from the public, that you can end up with a system. I mean, I don't know if this is communism or fascism at this point because I've spent 2 weeks just talking to both sides and it's just like, getting muddled up. But basically, like, I would see that if you were to have small government and good controls and the government is making sure that capitalist systems, these things won't happen.
Yeah.
And that you can keep your factories inside and everything, and you can have good employment. And see, a country has to be self-sufficient. This is another belief I have, right?
Oh, I don't know if I agree with that anymore. I don't think you can be self-sufficient. You'll fall behind the rest of the world so much. If everybody else is taking advantage of the power of all the other countries and you want to try to be self-sufficient, you'll always fall behind everybody else, no?
Is that like, for example, North Korea, how they've fallen behind?
Well, no, I mean, North Korea has a whole host of problems that are probably more relevant than just being self-sufficient.
Yeah. But like China is self-sufficient, right? Isn't China like pretty much self-sufficient?
China is very much like a lot of services and whatnot from China come from the United States and whatnot. No, like they manufacture things, but a lot of the high-level companies are created in the United States. Apple, Intel, like they wouldn't have processors to make if these companies.
Would they need that? But would they really need that? Like, if they were cut off and they could no longer have access to Intel and all that, like, why wouldn't it be possible for them to go, well, I mean, we have incredibly smart people and we have universities and they'll just build their own stuff. They do it all the time.
I mean, they can manufacture stuff, but I mean, it would be worse than what we have now, or how they exist now.
Possibly, but I don't know why it couldn't be done. Like, I don't know why it couldn't be possible.
Yeah, I mean you can do it. It's possible. It's just a matter. It's possible. It would just be worse than what it is now. Like it would be harder than your economy would suffer compared to where it could be, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I suppose we reached the end of that. But I mean, if you have time with me, would you have a discussion with me about the UBI and sort of the issues around that I see with that and what you think of it?
We can talk about it at some other point if you want. I have to play a game with a friend. I have a little bit of time to play before I got to pick up my kids. So, but maybe in another point if you want to. Sure.
Okay. Yeah. Well, just let me know on Skype.
Yeah. Sure thing. All right. I love you, buddy. Be careful.
Thanks for having me on. See you later.
See you later.